We are live on the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast. It is Greg and Dave, as always, going live on a Friday afternoon. 3 episodes this week, but that's what a great weekend in sports does for us. Dave, how are you today?
I'm good. It's a big week. I'm excited to do this live for the first time. You guys got one in last week, and I had to do a quick little bit of prep for the show before, and I watched the beginning of that. You guys had some very kind things to say about me, and it was very touching. So thank you very much. Believe it or not, to the listeners, we do virtually almost no editing post-production for the actual episode. I just have to cut it up and publish it everywhere. So this should more or less be a basically totally normal show for us. Yeah, ready to go.
Yeah, little added spice to it, you could say. It's like upgrading, I don't know, going from Diet Coke to Coke Zero. It's largely the same, but maybe mentally we'll convince ourselves it's really special. All right, this should be fun. We are going to recap some of last night's top angles that we discussed on the pod yesterday. We've got an NBA slate that we can give you our best plays for tonight for. I want to take a college basketball look broadly at the whole sport with some futures, and also lines for Saturday are out. So we've got early best bets on the site at dimers.com. We'll jump into those. And as always, you've got some hockey thoughts for us as the NHL season rolls back on. Let's start with some things you should have bet since last night.
I'm not even going to hit the transition for this one because it's just going to be a quick one. I don't even have any visuals to add here, so I'll just pull it up. But we touched on a few nice angles last night. Unfortunately, my favorite one of them, Maxime Reynaud, just was a total dud. He had 5 boards in like 28 minutes. I'm not really sure what happened there. He didn't get into foul trouble, but it seemed like all the boards just funneled to Precious Achiuwa, who had 12 in like a season high 41 minutes. But happens sometimes. But Jokic did pretty well. He got up to 13 assists on his little ladder. Trey Murphy hit his 4+ at plus money. Sadiq Bey, who we called out as the option without Trey Murphy, also hit his plus money on 3+. Trey Young was projected for 14, 2, and 6 by the model. Ended up with 12, 2, and 6. Did hit the assist mark that we had in that little, parlay of each angle, and Reynaud ended up being the only one who did not hit that. So a little disappointing there, and he was my favorite play. But a couple nice angles, guys hitting alternate lines, and all came from the projection sub, so that was nice. 2 of our NHL players picked up a point. Will Coyle for the Rangers at plus 115. He also scored. And then Matvei Gridin of the Flames at plus 140 for a point. He also cashed his assists at plus 270. All that was on the NHL props page. Coyle was also my play for the Icebreaker promo on DraftKings, which is the fastest goal scorer. I put that in the Discord. He ended up being the third. He was second in that game, but it was a pretty good shot, except for an 11-second goal in that same game. So pretty good stuff there from the model last night, using a strategy that we talked about and that I had deployed a couple nights before. And we're going to use a little bit of that tonight alongside some other angles, and pretty much using all the NHL tools when we get to that segment today.
Love it. Yeah, the Trey Young projection was almost spot on, missing by points. I love when that happens, when Dimers tells you exactly what a guy's going to get and it just comes to fruition. So, all right, got some good wins in the yesterday's episode. Let's see if we can follow it up on a Friday. Get Dimers Pro, by the way, if you want all these insights for yourself. 50% off with promo code podcast of Dimers Pro. Take advantage while you can. Let's start in the NBA world for Friday. You want to just pull up some screen shares here and we can sort of dig through the site together?
Yeah, I'll pull up I got a few angles that I like that we'll get into, but figure we can just take a quick look around the tools as a whole and see what's cooking pretty much from every angle. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games on tonight. Obviously the big one, Mavericks Celtics with Jason Tatum back. We'll talk about that. That is specifically an angle that I have. There's a pretty cool article I put on site that's got some interesting insights as far as his projections, players alongside him, a couple value plays potentially based on the projections. We'll talk about those on this show anyway. But so we got all 7 games here. We'll check out the best bets real quick, see what's cooking in here. When I looked this morning, nothing super, interesting jumping out to me. Look, I'm going to get got on the live show by my slow internet, which is fantastic. It's probably because I got golf streaming in the background. Well, anyway. So Celtics Mavericks should be a good one. Tatum's obviously coming back from almost a year-long absence, May Achilles injury, and probably going to play some limited minutes, but that doesn't mean there's nothing to bet on. So I guess I'm just going to skip this right now because my internet is being really slow, and just go with the Tatum stuff. So, sorry, this is throwing me off here.
No, you're good. This
is
what happens when we go live, right? This is It's like our Coke Zero's flat, Dave. That's what just happened.
Yeah. Give me 1 second, guys.
It's okay. Technical difficulties strike it for everybody at some point. Meanwhile, I'm looking up Tatum props right now.
Yeah. I got a couple things I wanted to talk about. So it's probably just my internet being too slow because I'm streaming and got all this stuff going on. So you'll have to excuse the visual. I'll just pull it down for now.
Can I
just talk about them?
You want me to?
Yeah. You want to? Yeah. Want to pull it in? You can just add from the bottom.
All right, hold on. I need to pull up a window. I had everything on my laptop, so give us 5 seconds. I'll log in real quick.
I will take this moment to talk about the Celtics futures anyway. They were plus 6,000 preseason. Talked about that on our preseason look, that was just simply too long. They were plus 3,000 on FanDuel. I think plus 6,000 on BetMGM. I got them at plus 5,000 on DraftKings. We only had them at like 1.6%, but now they're the favorite in the Eastern Conference. They're the most likely team to win the finals, according to our model. In the Eastern Conference, they're fourth overall, plus 900 now, down to 8.2% or so. So it looks like you're good to go, Greg. So I'll pull you in here. I got to pull mine up. StreamYard, baby. Look at that.
Look at us. We've done it. Wow. All right. Lead me here. Where do you want to go? Looks like Jaylen Brown being the first name. It's the angle I was already sniffing out tonight.
Yeah, so Jaylen Brown's kind of an interesting case here because obviously he's been the biggest beneficiary of Jason Tatum being out. He's put up career high numbers across the board. Logic dictates that is going to be affected and going to come back down to earth slightly with Tatum back. Probably not going to happen right away. Tatum's coming off of a really serious injury. They're very likely to kind of ease him along here. Not really sure what type of minutes he's going to play tonight. We've got him projected at 14 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 4.1 assists. Obviously pretty conservative numbers indicating a lighter workload. But even within that, I think there are a couple interesting angles. So Jaylen Brown's up here, 5.9 assists, obviously over his 4.5. Might be a good play on its own. My only concern there would be if Jason Tatum returning cuts more into the assist factor, but that's kind of what I like here. The Mavs actually rank dead last in the NBA in opponent assists over their last 15 games. So it's a really soft matchup for Jason Tatum to get in here and just get his feet underneath him. His assist prop 4+ was plus 150 on DraftKings last I checked. So that seems, and we've got him at 4.1 assists. So that seems pretty good as far as the projections indicate. And you might want to assume he's going to take fewer hard drives to the basket, right? Try to not put too much extra stress on his Achilles ankle leg when he's in the game. That probably benefits Jaylen Brown. So I might shy away from Jaylen Brown's assist prop, although it does have value here. He is projected for 29.5 points. His line is 26.5. So 30 points is certainly in play. That correlates pretty well with Jason Tatum at least having a light night in assists, with our model projecting 4.1, possibly hitting 5, 6, 7, who knows. But I'd be very cautious about betting on him. You really don't know what kind of minutes he's going to play. Trae Young played something like, 30 minutes or so last night, not coming off of nearly as serious of an injury. So I wouldn't expect Tatum to realistically play probably more than like 24 to 28, but I truly don't know. So I'd be cautious about betting on him, but that is an angle I think you could play given the Mavs positional weakness against assists and how that kind of helps Jaylen Brown do what he's been doing. Probably not going to mess with that chemistry too much anyway.
Yeah, if I could psychoanalyze Jaylen Brown the way I like to think I can psychoanalyze Jaylen Brown, I actually think it's a huge night for him tonight because we know he cares about his perception. next to Jason Tatum. He's been on record with that. These two are friendly. Of course, they're friends, but there's a competitiveness nature to the way they're wired. And I think Brown very much, this is why you called it out as a future early in the season that ended up having a ton of value. Brown wanted it to feel like there was no lost magic when Tatum went down, and he stepped up and did it. And I think, this isn't necessarily the same as like you think last year, a big midseason addition, Luka Doncic shows up to the Lakers. And I think everyone on the Lakers are sort of like, okay, we want Luka to come in and have 40 and 10 and 10. I think Jaylen Brown, if anything, is going to be competing with himself and with his own teammates of like, hey, I am the superstar of this team. And it's great that my other superstar is back, but I'm going nowhere. And I think you look at our projections, I have those up on my laptop to the side of this right now, but JB is our second most projected points per game tonight, even with Tatum back in the fold. He is pretty high on rebounds at 7.5, and he's pretty high on assists at 5.9. All of those are projected higher than the baseline you can get just to bet each of those individual props on their own as points and rebounds and assists. So I'm going to find some way to get Jaylen Brown on my card tonight. It might just be this over 4.5 total assists because a 9% edge is massive. That's a high probability play as well. But man, even like some PRA totals, I don't hate for JB. Is there any way you want to put together a ladder for Jaylen Brown even tonight? Maybe
points. I just would be hesitant, I guess, with his counting stats as far as going too high up a ladder. I mean, 5.9 assists, you could take 6 and his line's 4.5. So you'll get plus money there. You don't have to go crazy on a ladder, but I mean, a huge scoring night could be in play. I mean, the Mavs defense is not good. Got him projected for pretty much 30 and his line's 26.5, 30, 35, 40, maybe. Yeah. Play that with Tatum 4 assists, you probably.
I mean, six Jaylen Brown assists, even as its own, is plus 208 at DraftKings right now. And that's basically our projection for him tonight, 5.9 assists. So it's great value.
Yeah, it's a really good number.
All right.
I am able to utilize the website now. If you,
we're back. Okay, yeah. Here, I'll hit back over to you.
I'll happily take back over from.
I love that. I just got to come in and be like Jaylen Brown tonight.
You were Jaylen Brown. My website,
now
my internet got an Achilles injury, and you came in and put up your career numbers with the screen share, Greg. It was beautiful work. So yeah, here you go. You got all our projections right here, the whole hub. One thing I wanted to highlight, player that I'm definitely looking at tonight is Şengün. He's one of my favorite players to bet on. Here he is. In general, he's just so talented. He's, multifaceted. He can get triple doubles. I think I've called him like a little Jokic before. And I think I want to target his rebounds tonight. We've got him for 8.7. Against the Blazers, which is not the most elite matchup. They do rank right about in the middle of the league against opponent boards. And Donovan Clingan, who we've got for quite a few rebounds, I believe 10.9, has been a rebounds machine. He's tied for the third most per game in the NBA, really come into that role. But the Rockets are one of the stingiest rebounding defenses, especially two centers. So I think that kind of balances out a little bit tonight and works in favor of Şengün. We do have Clingan at 10.9 boards, but I think it's kind of notable that of his last 10 games where he's hit double digits, which he's been doing quite frequently, only 2 of them went under 15. So, he's got major upside or doesn't quite hit the double digits. We have him on the lower end of that spectrum. So I think it's a little telling. Projections might be showing us that he's got a tougher matchup on the slate tonight than he has had lately. And with Şengün right at 8.7, a mark he's cleared in only 3 of 7 since the break. I think it kind of points to this game being a positive one for him on the glass. I think it's notable that for Clingan, his double-double is only minus 123, which seems a little low for a guy averaging 11.5 rebounds. Obviously, the points come into play, and he can sometimes have single-digit scoring games, which is partly why that's lower. But I think it's just pointing to he might not have quite a big game tonight. And I think the most logical place for those boards to funnel ends up being Şengün at 8.7. 9+ boards at -124 feels like a pretty solid play. For personally, 10+ at plus money is more appealing for me. He came up 1 assist shy of a triple-double in the last meeting versus the Blazers, and I don't hate that for a little sprinkle at plus 1,400. His 6.3 assists last I checked was still a top 10 mark on the board. You'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, well, 11. It's 6.2 now, but yeah. So I think that's a nice little target tonight. Whether you play double-double, triple-double for a little sprinkle or 10+ rebounds, or even just take them to go over 8.5 as the model projects. I don't think that's a bad angle at all tonight.
Love it. All right, you said double-double. Let's talk double-doubles because you can find, using the player projections page that you've got pulled up right now, you can find guys in a certain window for specific stat categories with a simple click of a button, scroll down, see if anybody jumps out to you here. But let's take a closer look at boards because there's a group here starting at Moussa Diabate, maybe even Khalil Ware at 9.9 if we want to round up. There's basically 6 players projected to finish with 10+ boards tonight. And you could maybe scan and find some favorable double-double odds for a few of these non-household names, including Moussa Diabate.
Yeah, so I think this is just a good case of how you can use these tools to kind of get a little insight on how sports books are pricing guys compared to where the model projects them. So like you have, even if you include Ware here, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, 6 guys in this little range. 5 guys in this range. If you look at their odds, there's some wild differences for guys who are projected basically the same amount of rebounds. Wemby is -274. Towns, I think he was -180. Klingon, like I said, -123. He's down to -117 now. And then Moussa Diabate was +193 when I was checking before the show. So obviously he's only projected for 10 points, which is, obviously an important factor in the double-double. But he's got 2 doubles since the break, went 9-9 on Wednesday. Heat ranked 25th in boards against opponents. They've allowed performances of 13, 11, 14, 10, 16, 10, 16, 12 going back in their last 10 games. Plenty of those by non-centers. So, this kid's been doing pretty well. Now he's in a spot where you could possibly exploit the matchup. And when you just compare it to the other players on the board, the odds just, they raise your eyebrows a little bit. Ware, who's just under 10, is +148. So you have a huge odds discrepancy here for guys who are projected at more or less the same rebounds mark. Points, obviously the consideration as he is projected for the lowest of those, but just stood out to me when I'm looking at this. And sometimes, you can find these little extra insights, I guess, like that. And then I'm not afraid to use the double or the projections to find double doubles, guys who are within 2 if the odds look pretty good. For the Celtics here, Keita's projected for 10.5 and 8.0. He's +429 for a double-double, 2 rebounds away from that. If you don't think he's going to get the points, 10 rebounds, also a viable play if you're willing to invite a little bit more risk for the plus money, because you consider these are all averages of performances, which means there are a set of simulations where they're clearing these numbers as well.
Yeah, it's a fun way to go about it. I think the Diabate one is probably the most pointed example, right? You got a guy that literally is projected to record a double-double at almost 2-1 to do just that. Do that 100 times. I feel like you come out profitable if you bet that enough, if our projections are right, of course. But I'm telling you from experience, years of working with dimers and following this data, it's often correct. Very often. So fun way to look at it. Thank you for the example there. Do you got anything else for NBA you want to call out for tonight or for the weekend at all?
No, I think that's it for me.
All right, cool. Let's jump around to college basketball then next. If you don't mind here, I'll have you start from a futures perspective for college hoops.
Sure.
And kind of just want to do a pulse check on this. It's been a few weeks since we've had this conversation. And not a ton has changed, but there's been some shifts. For starters, the last time we got on here, it felt like Duke, Michigan, and Arizona were the sportsbook's collective favorites. And as we currently sit, that's been trimmed really to 2. Duke and Michigan with identical odds at plus 340. Arizona is absolutely the 3rd favorite, maybe in a tier of their own at plus 480. But that reflects what our model sees as likely outcomes here. Both Duke and Michigan with a 16% chance of truly raising the trophy. Arizona 4% less likely to do so, actually making them one of the worst value bets you could make out of the top 3 there. Arizona being priced similarly at all to Duke and Michigan really doesn't make a lot of sense according to our model that sees them in a different tier. Now, if you had to pick between Duke and Michigan, I think Duke is the correct answer here, and I'm glad the model backs that up. Duke was head-to-head with a victory over Michigan already. They've got the National Player of the Year in Cam Boozer, and just point blank, for them to run through the ACC season the way they have, win all these games in such dominant fashion. They just played the 2nd ranked team in the league, Virginia, last weekend. It was a 27-point victory. The dominance that Duke has been showing is rather unprecedented, and they've got the best player in the sport, a guy that probably should be getting more intel into being the potential number 1 pick in the NBA draft. So the way the model sees the top 3 here is very much something I am in agreement with. And I think, would I recommend betting either Duke or Michigan at plus 340? No, I would not. I just think in general, that's a crazy number in a league that is as broad as this. There's 64 teams that make the tournament. There are roughly probably 8 or 9 teams I think could reasonably win a national championship this year. And I don't think there's going to be much fluctuation. That's the hard part. If you are a Duke or Michigan believer, you're not going to get much of a better price than this down the stretch. It's kind of one of those things where, to me, you may have missed your window not betting them earlier in the season, which makes Dimers Pro more valuable, because if you had Dimers Pro going back to November, Michigan was 15-1 at the beginning of the season before they've risen up the ranks to plus 340.
That's quite the drop. UConn, I don't remember what they were, but they, last I remember, were pretty well outside the top 6 anyway. Don't seem like they're that far off fair odds. Any thoughts on them getting back to the dance?
They've made a pretty serious rise here in recent weeks, and the evisceration they had of St. John's is probably the biggest data point to that. The problem with UConn this year has been that they have a lot of unimpressive wins, if you can even say that. They're not exactly an analytics darling, because games they're supposed to win by 15, they usually win by 6. And I think the explanation we've heard from Dan Hurley is largely, well, hey, we're UConn. It's not March yet. Like, when we need to lean up in our seats, we will. We're so clearly the class of this league, and quite frankly, we get bored. And I'm starting to buy that there's a legitimate argument there, because the St. John's game was really the only marquee game they've played in 2 months in a down year for the Big East. And I mean, they held them to 40 points and beat them by 30 plus in that game. So I've been a UConn skeptic all year. I personally wouldn't touch them, but I do think it's noteworthy for sure, as you mentioned, that they're sort of our model's 6th likely champion here, and that they've surpassed teams like Illinois and Iowa State, who really are more of the analytics darlings this year.
I can't help but, when you say they have a lot of unimpressive wins, think of another team from New England that had a lot of unimpressive wins this past season, and it came back to haunt them at the end.
Some similarities there, undoubtedly some similarities there. I will throw out my personal favorite bet, just looking at the top of the board here.
Sure.
If I were going to play anything at the current odds, it would be Florida 8-1. These are the defending champs, but I think they have earned their way into the quote unquote top 4. Being considered the 4th best team in the sport, you would think they get a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament with the 4 regions. The thing is, they're not going to. They lost too many games early in the season, and it looks like UConn is sort of that 4th number 1 seed because of the way they've ran through the Big East. So they're going to be underseeded almost undeniably, and they're playing to the level of an Arizona, although they're going to be viewed as a 2 seed that needs to get through one of these Duke, Michigan, Arizona monsters. If you can stomach the idea that they might have to play one extra tough game to get to the national championship. What Florida's done in the last month has been undeniably impressive. I'll throw this out as a number for you too, Dave. They returned 3 of the front court stars that could be in the NBA right now that are responsible for last year's national championship. Florida was the team that cut the nets down, and Alex Condon, Thomas Haug, and Ruben Chinyelu were all 3 monsters in the front court that helped them do so. The big difference between last year's team and this year's team has been the backcourt. The 2 guards, Xavier Lee and Boogie Fland, were new additions to step into the roles that Walter Clayton abandoned. And the big issue for them is that they can't make a jump shot. I mean, the story of Florida's season is that Xavier Lee is shooting 27% from 3. Boogie Fland is shooting 22% from 3. Now, who these guys have been over the course of their college careers, Xavier at Princeton, Boogie at Arkansas last year, they've been good shooters. Boogie Fland's a 34% shooter on tough off-the-dribble threes last year. He's not a 22% three. It's just not real. It can't possibly be that bad. And I would point this out. In their last 4 games, he's making his threes for the first time this year. He is 7 for 14 from 3 in their last 4 games. If you are a believer in positive shooting regression, which I am, Florida is due to make shots after how they started their first 4 months. And look, they are where they are. They are our model's 4th highest projected champion here. They are the 4th best team on KenPom.com as well, with the 325th ranked 3-point percentage shooting offense. If that just goes back to what was expected, they're going to look like the best team in the country down the stretch. And we may look back at this 8-1 opportunity as the value we wish we could get with Duke or Michigan or Arizona.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, you can't get much worse than low 20s shooting 3-point percentage. So regression certainly is in play there. And it sounds like he's finding that stroke. So yeah, dangerous if they figure that out. I mean, having 3 guys with experience of a championship on a team is not very common and a rare resource to have in the tournament.
Yep. It'll help them when they get there for sure. All right. If you don't mind, can we go to the best bets page next?
Certainly.
Yeah, a bunch of these Saturday games are starting to pull in, which is awesome. It's what I love about the weekend slates in college hoops. They're so bulked up. Odds usually come out a little earlier than the midweek games. And by a Friday afternoon, you can find a bunch of projections from Dimers on the ways to bet these. Interesting here. Tennessee -4.5 is a good shout. Early high probability play, it looks like. Almost an 11% edge, according to the Dimers bot, that Tennessee covers the spread against Vanderbilt. That spread, I think, is low or less than expected because of some uncertainty around Tennessee's freshman superstar, Nate Ament. He may miss this game. I haven't heard the latest update, but I think, that high probability, high edge number would certainly be there if Ament ends up playing in that game. We'll have to see. If you don't mind scrolling down for me, earlier Purdue was pulling as another best bet here, and I want to call out that game if it's still showing. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Little sweet spot bet for Purdue here. This is Purdue's senior night against Wisconsin on Saturday afternoon. The first time these 2 teams played, Purdue beat Wisconsin by 16 points at Wisconsin. And I think they feel very comfortable in this matchup. Purdue has not played well at home really all season. They've taken 4 marquee losses outright in Mackey Arena, which is incredibly unconventional for this program. And this is the final game of their trio of senior superstars' careers, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, and Trey Kaufman-Wren. And they have a chance with a win in this game to go out as the winningest players in Big Ten history in 4-year careers in the Big Ten Conference. They need a win to do that. I'm not saying they need any added motivation. This is a championship level program that shows up for games. But if there was ever a moment for Purdue to be at their best, a matchup that you won by 16 on the road earlier this season with a ferocious crowd behind you and your final chance at home is a spot I feel pretty great about. I'll add to this too. Nolan Winter is Wisconsin's best front court player. He's listed as day to day. He left Wisconsin's last game with a gruesome looking injury. He couldn't put any weight on it and had to be carried to the locker room. So it's a shocker to me that he's listed as questionable. I just assumed he would miss this game, potentially miss the remainder of the season. It sounds like they got some good injury news there, and I don't want to mislead, but if there is any uncertainty with Winter, if he's unavailable, this 6.5 number becomes an awful lot more friendly toward Purdue. KenPom.com projects Purdue to win this game by 8. I like to weigh KenPom's projection with Dimer's projection, with where the odds come out. And if all three are in agreement, if this is an underpriced number, to me, that's my personal sweet spot. And it's certainly Dimer's sweet spot here as well.
Yeah, no, that's a really good call out. I mean, you can't have much more motivation than that. I will miss seeing those guys' names in the projections as well. They're regular features in there with a lot of insights. So,
yeah, some prolific numbers from those guys. Hopefully they can. They've really just not played well at home this year, and I think that's baked into the number. That's the way a game that should be Purdue -8 at full strength gets down to Purdue -6.5 because of those types of voodoo concerns. But yeah. All right.
74% money line, so very strong.
There we have it. All right, that's everything from me on college hoops for the weekend, the final regular season slate of the year. We will have plenty more for you throughout March. I've got a couple travel trips as I try to cover the NCAA tournament in the coming weeks. But Dave and I have already talked offline about a couple ways that we can keep doing these episodes amongst those. So I may have a different background, but stay tuned for more March Madness coverage as we get closer and closer to the Final Four. You want to go to hockey next?
Yeah, let's go to some hockey. And as they say, do that hockey. So nice little slate on tonight, 7 games, just like the NBA. I'll pull up these projections as well in a minute. But as mentioned, a couple nice hits last night with guys who landed in that double edge, I guess I'll call it, for the model, with a value in both a goal and a point, or a point and an assist. Some of them landing in all 3. So I'll pull up the predictions. You can just kind of click around and see what's on site tonight, and then I'll go over the 4 or 5 players, I guess, that I like. From varying angles and all using different tools, which I kind of am looking forward to showcasing here. So let me just pull this back up in hockey mode and we'll dive in. First of all, Avalanche Stars should be a really sick matchup tonight. We got 2 of the top teams in the league. Check the futures real quick. The Stars have been rising a little bit. Yeah, they're both top 4 teams here. Playoff series last year that was excellent. Should be a really good game tonight. Really good defenses though, so I don't know how much we'll see in terms of scoring, but it's gonna be hard for me not to get at least a little 2 or 3 leg goal scorer play in this for me personally. Blues Sharks is another one. 2 pretty poor defenses here, bottom 5 both of them, so it should be a lot of goals in that one. Hurricanes Oilers, some surprisingly soft defenses, kind of. Canadians Ducks, and then you got Canucks Blackhawks. So we have the 3 worst defenses in play tonight, with the Canucks, Ducks, and the Sharks, as well as the Blues, bottom 5. So plenty of scoring opportunities. Hopefully we'll see a lot. Hopefully not too deep of cuts that we overlook, but a lot of stuff on here. Go to the best bets. Lots of puck lines. Panthers, Rangers, Canucks. Looks like the sweet spot is between 2 and 3%, because this one doesn't have it, which is really significant. 36.3% ROI across 30 puck line bets. So that would mean anything within I guess 0 or probably 2 to 3%, but because 0 to 2% wouldn't show up on here, has been significantly profitable. So that's certainly something to look at here on straights. -178, pretty juicy for the Panthers. Almost certainly going to have these teams with a money line edge as well. Don't hate that on the Panthers. I'd probably play the Panthers money line over the puck line at -178. That's just too much for me. Rangers is a little easier to stomach here, but you might have a nice little money line round robin here, or just some very nice, attractive plus money straights. Going to be hard for me to get behind the Canucks most nights, but the Jets have had so many struggles this year that it's not a bad spot for them. Although you could play that one a lot safer with the puck line at much more favorable, -118 compared to these guys. So some really good bets in there from the model. Props is where I'm mostly going to spend time tonight. sometimes I like to go through the shots on goal props, kind of look at those. I find those to be a little more not useful, but using trends alongside those is a pretty good indicator of a guy's volume any given night. But what I really want to look at is kind of the guys we did last night that hit the multiple categories. So we'll go in here, deselect props, go to goal and points. It's possible that some of these may have changed since I was looking earlier, but I've saved the things I want to look at in the meantime. Quinn Hughes is a guy I want to talk about. Dylan Holloway as well. No surprise, you're seeing two guys on the Blues who are against the Sharks, who have the second worst defense in the NHL. I think 3.4 goals allowed per game. Right up here with edges on points. This is substantial on Dylan Holloway, over 60% at plus money. Looks like his probability has gone up and the odds have gone down a little bit since earlier, but that's a really good play. Bozer, who was the surprise guy the other night for me, played the other side of the matchup, and he ended up scoring a goal. Casper's one who I believe has point, goal, and assist on here tonight. Bunch of Ducks and Sharks, on the other side of that favorable matchup, but you got to imagine they will be trying to score if they're going to be giving up goals, so not something to ignore. Yep, so here you got Holloway again in both. Ooh, nice. Sam Reinhart was on here before. That's a pretty low probability for Sam Reinhart, too. The Red Wings, I want to say, allow like bottom or top 10 fewest goals in the league. So that's probably why you're getting that. But that's a really good price on Reinhart, who's in the past been a scoring machine. Just Panthers don't quite have it this year, which is crazy because they're on the quest for the three-peat. But so let's pull up the guys that I wanted to look at specifically, and we can just kind of look at why each one of them is in a pretty solid spot tonight and go over them quickly one by one. So first, Dylan Holloway, guy that came through for us the other night, and I just showed you is on here for a point and a goal. His probability has gone up, like I said. This was 57.2% earlier. Now it is 60.6%. He missed almost 2 full months between December and February, but he's played 38 games and picked up 22 points. And that's only a few behind guys who have played 61 games on this team. He's pretty good for a guy on the third line sometimes. 5 points and 4 goals, including a hat trick since the league returned. He's over 57%, like I said, to record a point and plus money, which is probably one of the best straights on the board tonight. Gets the Sharks, who allow the second most goals in the NHL. Projected starter in the between the pipes tonight, has a 3.57 goals against average, 887 save percentage, and has allowed 4+ in 3 of his last 5 starts. I love Holloway tonight. I will be on him for sure. Using a different tool, we can check out Cole Caulfield, who pops up 4 times in the trends, but the others are for assist and point, and that's not what we're looking at here tonight. But he's got the second most goals in the entire NHL. Unsurprisingly, that means we're not getting an edge in our favor. He's also playing the Ducks, the third most goals per game. So a lot working against us, at least in terms of getting value. But the trends are very strongly in our favor. Goal in 9 of 13. Good shot volume with 4+ shots on goal in 8 of 11. 3 goals since the break. 43.8% to score. Highest in this game, of course. And that's right near the fair odds of plus 135. So you're not getting value, but you're getting a really strong trend and a really good matchup on a guy who's the top probability in the game. I really like Caulfield tonight. Another guy who I called out who did not have the edge on the point earlier, so I've only got his goal data here, but we saw him that he has 64.9% probability to pick up a point. So he hits both categories now. Quinn Hughes only has 6 goals on the season, 3 with Vancouver, 3 with Minnesota. He's far more of a table setter, 55 assists, ranks 6th in the NHL, but he shoots a ton of shot volume. Only 5 defensemen in the league have more shots on goal than Quinn Hughes this season, and he spends almost half the game on the ice most nights. So he's out there all the time, and he puts on a lot of shots. So it's volume and opportunity, which is pretty much all you can ask for, especially with a guy who's at plus 500 to score a goal. Implies 16.7%. We've got 19.2%, so we should be just over 400. Good edge there. Vegas is expected to start their top goalie tonight, Akira Schmid, but he's not a brick wall. 3 goals allowed in 5 of his last 6. and in both games since the break. If there's a night for Quinn Hughes to get a goal, tonight seems like a pretty good one, and he's got an edge, which we don't see very often on site for him. So I like the spot tonight. And then the last guy I want to look at, once again, using a different tool of the site, is Connor Bedard against the Canucks, who, as mentioned before, allow the most goals in the NHL. Going to keep this one pretty short and sweet. You got the worst defense versus our top probability to score in that game.
Yep.
We do have edges. Last I checked, Ryan Donato and Ilya Mikheyev. If you are going for the value, those are the guys you want to look at. But they have a lot of games with one shot or even 0 shots on goal. So for me personally, that's just not enough volume to get behind, and their odds aren't quite as long as I would like in that range. So give me Bedard at less than favorable odds. He was minus 130 last I looked on FanDuel, but in pretty good form with a goal in 5 of his last 8, dating back to before the break and in a good matchup. Personally, I'm going to round robin these four for a goal, and I'm going to play Holloway at that plus money for a point, and Quinn Hughes for the goal straight. That's not my card tonight as far as the NHL is concerned. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but those puck line plays were looking pretty interesting with the money line also in favor. So I'm going to explore that, see if I can find something, maybe even like a little first period action. You can get some pretty nice plus money in first periods on teams to kind of, upset not the full game, but win the first period. You could also get a tie no bet, so it'll void if it's a tie, which is often very helpful in hockey.
Yeah, that's great. Great feature. Not a bug of betting hockey. Like Tate McRae, I want a slice of the Hughes family right now. I'm very in on
everybody does.
One Quinn Hughes right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
I think everybody wants a piece of those guys.
How can you not, man? They're American heroes. They're just handsome and lovable, and they do all the talk shows. This is how they get you, Dave. It really is. But hey,
capturing my heart.
It's just in the heartstrings. All right. What a great hockey preview. Thank you very much. Anything else before we just get a last little touch point before the weekend?
No, I think you know what? Let me take one quick look at futures just for the other leagues. I did say we would. There's not really a whole lot of juice there, to be honest. It's just kind of that period in the leagues when there hasn't been a lot of movement. We had the NHL, on Olympic break, so there wasn't a whole lot of difference there. But a couple little things I noticed since the last time we took a look at this. Hurricanes and Lightning have both shortened up a little bit here. Lightning were plus 500 when we looked at them on the show. Hurricanes were plus 750. Stars are one of the bigger risers here. They were just they've called up by 1.8%. They were only 4%. You're getting pretty close to an edge here. This might actually even be a slight value. I'm blanking on the odds, but 5% would be about plus 2,000. So I think this is actually pretty good. Also called out the Sabres at 3.3% and plus 4,000. They're now up to 5.1 and 35-1. They've matched their point total from last year already. They are just a hot team, man. Never won a cup before, but if you want to be a piece of that history, it's not the worst time. They still have a little bit of an edge. And then I just want to say again, where are they? See, yeah, they're higher than I would have expected. Don't sleep on the Penguins here. They're pretty high in the standings. It's only 3.9%, but they were as long as plus. Oh no, they're actually longer because they were plus 5,000 when we looked at this last time. But it should be only plus 2,500 at 3.9%. So it's a huge value here. And Crosby got hurt in the Olympics, but he is skating again. Should be back sooner than later. Just wouldn't see these odds holding once the playoffs are finalized and the Penguins are in. So, on a value play alone, that's a pretty good bet there. And then let's just take one more look at the NBA. Although this is, a really tight contest here. The Nuggets are basically the only value around the top of the board here, at least close to fair. Fair would be 675. So yeah, you're getting a little bit of an edge here. 750 implies only 11.8%. We talked about them yesterday when we were looking at the slate. A little shaky since the calendar turned to 2026. But realistically, I think they're only one of 2 contenders to the Thunder in the West alongside the Spurs. Model seems to agree with the next 3 teams, 4 teams, all being from the East. And speaking of the East, there's virtually no value here at the top. And at this point, I just think it's Celtics or bust, not just because I'm biased with the early season value and I want to see that bet hit. But unless Tatum's return upsets the chemistry here, all these other teams feel more flawed, maybe except for the Pistons at 4.7% and 17-1. It's not terrible, but the fair odds would be plus 2,000. So you're just not quite getting the odds you want.
Yeah. I tell you what, after watching back-to-back Pistons Spurs games in the last 2 weeks, I can't talk myself into my Pistons. Not at all. I mean, I know it's different coming out of the East if you want to have that conversation. True. But in terms of winning a championship, man, and honestly, maybe I'm overreacting. I'm looking at the Spurs as a title team here. Wemby has changed everything. He's just I don't think he's anywhere close to his ceiling, but he's closer to it than I thought he would be this early. Like, he's just a cheat code. And the Pistons have one of the toughest front courts in the league. And they just had no answer. It's like they try to rough him up and go through him, and this guy just bounces off of it and is flying around with 8 feet long arms and Euro stepping like James Harden. He's just an alien. And I don't know. I see them. I'm not surprised the model is seeming to give them more and more of a chance here. The Thunder, being who they are, is obviously the big obstacle to any team, but I don't hate the Spurs, kind of similarly priced to Boston, right? But with a slightly higher probability, according to the Dimer spot. That might be a play for me.
Yeah, could be a little fun finals matchup play on its own.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, Wemby, right? Like he can't have hit his ceiling yet, right? Like, I mean, with what we've seen him do on certain nights, but not quite consistently yet, like there's no way that we've seen the ceiling, which is scary and awesome. We're going to see some really cool stuff, I think, for the next 10 years plus, hopefully.
Yeah. Oklahoma City, San Antonio battles in the next 4-year window is going to be ridiculous because even the Spurs supporting cast is so young. Dylan Harper is amazing. He's rookie of the month last month. And I was watching him against Detroit. Just like that's like their 7th guy at full strength right now. It's crazy what they could be a year from now.
Yeah. Quite the turnaround.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, sir. Good check-in with all of that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Friday afternoon episode. I know I had some fun with this. And as we keep growing this show in the non-NFL season, sometimes it's fun to just take a live look at everything on the site. You want to give people a quick purview of what else is going on this weekend with Dimers?
Of course. We got a golf tournament happening right now. I actually want to take a quick look at what's going on in that bad boy. Tommy Fleetwood was crushing my heart, but he appears that he will, in fact, make the cut. I think the cut line is safe. He's 1 over, so we got him in play. Just want him to hit that top 20 parlay with Henley and Rory McIlroy now, and I really don't care what else he does. Scotty is, I think he's teed off by now. I wonder if they're climbing back up here or not, but it's going to be a tough catch to get Daniel Berger, who's minus 12 now. So pretty nice golf tournament on. We'll have plenty of value throughout the week. After every round, we'll have some insights. Scotty had an edge this morning. I don't know if he'll still have it after today if he doesn't close this gap a little more. We got a good tennis tournament in Indian Wells, tons and tons of matches every day. I'm probably going to dive into that after the show. I was actually thinking about taking a look at it on the show, but I'm just not a tennis knowledgeable person. So I really am a slave to the model in that regard. So I didn't want to speak to it if I couldn't, but I will be diving into those edges after and making some plays myself. It's a soccer weekend. We got full MLS slate tomorrow, unless I am a fool and for some reason they are already off this early into the season. And then of course we got hoops and hockey every single day, all day on Dimers. So please check out the site, jump in the app, jump in the Discord, where we will be working together, collaborating, and chatting about all our favorite stuff on the site all weekend long.
Amen to that. All right. Beautiful time to be a sports bettor. Beautiful time to be a Dimers Sports Betting Podcast listener. Thank you, Dave. Get Dimers Pro, 50% off, promo code podcast. Take advantage. Win some money this weekend. Gamble responsibly, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Listen up.